Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing a little more showgirling. So after I've properly digested the life of a showgirl, I have reworked it a little bit using previous songs from Taylor Swift's discography to create a more cohesive storyline in my opinion. So yeah, basically what I've done is collected some songs that I felt like Taylor Swift has released in the past that have been a little bit showgirl centered and compiled them into my ideal Life of a Showgirl track list, completed with 13 tracks. So, if you guys are interested, definitely stay tuned and see what I've picked. I've used a couple songs from the Life of a Showgirl, but I generally tried to keep everything mixed up and not from the same album. So let's just go ahead and dive right into this. But first, if you guys are excited to watch this, definitely make sure to like this video and subscribe. All right, let's go into track one. So, track one, we're starting off with the Lucky One. The reason I wanted to choose this one is I feel like it opens the track list with a kind of overarching storyline. So it's not like an introduction in the sense of it kind of introduces us to the situation and the characters, but it's more an introduction of like, this is what's going to happen across this album. So again, kind of an overview of Fame, in my opinion. It's a very story-centered song, encapsulating the entire theming of the album and setting the tone. We get a fictional slash non-autobiographical song with this coming from best album ever created, Red. Just kidding. Every album from Taylor Swift, best album ever created. But a couple other reasons I like this. Number one, we have a young Taylor here, so I do feel like while this gives us that story overarch, it is from a younger viewpoint. So like we can kind of revisit some of the points she's made in our closing track. And yeah, I think we're talking about lots of different kinds of fame and parts of fame in this song. So again, it touches on everything, but doesn't really dig into specific things, which is kind of what we get into the track list, where the songs are more directed towards like, this is how you'd feel at the beginning of fame, or this is what you perceive fame as, versus this is another aspect of fame. So this kind of touches on everything, but doesn't really dig in too deep to anything. Got my little cold brew going. Yeah, so I thought this was a really great way to start off the album. I've seen some other people agreeing that the Lucky One would be a really interesting opening track to the Life of a Showgirl if we reworked and revisit it. So yeah, enough on the Lucky One. Let us keep going. Track two, I put Welcome to New York. I feel like this is a really good beginning of the album opening track because I think this is so based on what we would perceive fame to be. It's fun, it's feminine, we're partying with our friends. Again, very surface level viewpoint of like, if you ask your average Joe, hey, what do you think fame looks like? What do you think fame feels like? I feel like this song really encapsulates that. And we're also starting in New York, very notorious for having a lot of famous people. Be my NY when Hollywood hates me. This kind of ties in, right? Right. So yeah, this is what you would expect fame to be like, and this is kind of starting our album arc, if you will, because again, the first song kind of touches on everything and just is kind of setting the tone. So this is where we open up with a very surface level view of what people perceive fame to be and what perhaps someone would perceive fame to be who has just become famous and is really in that honeymoon stage with fame, partying it up, living up all of the best parts of it, but haven't really gone through the worst parts of it yet. Track three, we have Blank Space. So as you can see, we're opening up with a lot of 1989 because I tried to make the beginning of this track list very like what you'd expect fame to be. And like I was saying, that honeymoon phase with fame, with being a showgirl, with being a girl boss. So I think Blank Space really perfectly paints this picture of what people kind of perceive a lot of famous women to be like. And it's so diva. It's one of Taylor Swift's best songs for sure, but it takes this perception of Taylor Swift of being a serial dater and kind of flips it up and turns it on its head and makes her the absolute diva in the room. And once again, I think we're kind of going on the honeymoon phase with fame in this song. We are very much like, oh, people are saying this about me. I'm just going to clap back and people are going to like totally be on my side, which is exactly kind of what happens in the song. Another key point in the song is this is the first song really on the album. Again, we open up with the Lucky One for sure, but this is the first song on the album we're really digging deep into a little bit of romance and how that's going to tie into fame, which is going to be a theme in my reworking of this album. How can we be famous if we can't bejewel? So track 4, we have Bejeweled, and this is kind of ending our arc of the first 3 songs being this glamorous honeymoon phase with fame. So very similar to Blank Space. So we have the good side of fame, we have a little bit of romance into it, and again, it blends really well with these first 2 songs of what do we think fame's gonna be like? What is a showgirl's personal life like? So these first 3 tracks are kind of honeymoon phase, surface level phase. How many times can I say those words? How many times? Anyway, I guess I can't think of any synonyms right now. But I really like Bejeweled too because it's an older Taylor perspective. So we definitely have a little more nuance with Bejeweled because from the romance side of it, she starts kind of talking about what's a girl gonna do, a diamond's gonna shine. But you kind of dig into the lyrics more, and it's like, oh, someone's not letting her bejewel. Someone doesn't want her to go out and have fun tonight. So it definitely segues better into the more nuanced songs we have later on this track list that I've rebuilt. So I did kind of like it at the tail end of this first 3 track opening sequence of banger, banger, banger. You know, I'm the girl boss. I am the diva of the moment. I can do whatever I want. You know, I'm so powerful. I'm so famous, blah, 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 etc., etc. So we finish up with Bejewel and then we go into track 5. Track 5, we take a really hard pivot. Track 5, I chose Mirrorball because this is our first intrinsic look and more of our diaristic songwriting coming through. And I really like this song as a showing of what it can be like to be someone who's famous and be someone who is perceived as charismatic. Because realistically, what you're doing is kind of reforming yourself to the audience that you are presenting yourself in front of. You are trying to make them feel their most comfortable. You are trying to make them feel their best and always giving to people. And I feel like this really relates to someone who is famous because you're constantly running into your fans and people who adore you. And your goal is to prioritize them, make their experience the best by being Mirrorball. So yeah, we're going from these really high highs of oh my gosh, all the partying, all the girl bossing, and this is our first intrinsic look at, hey, this is how it feels to be the center of attention, but not really feel like I'm being true and authentic to myself. So kind of grappling with being a people pleaser as well as a public figure, which I think is a really hard balance to strike. And I think you go back through Taylor Swift's discography, and it's so obvious that this is something she has really struggled with, especially up until Reputation. You see her even in interviews and stuff like that, perhaps not being completely authentic to herself, which is something she talks about on Reputation, when she's the happiest she's ever been, when people aren't 100% fond of her, when they think she's annoying and stuff like that. Well, she's actually being more true to herself. So I really like this song as the emotional center. I didn't love the transition from Bejeweled to Mirrorball because obviously it is kind of awkward, but I do think they kind of show 2 sides of the same coin. One is wanting to be able to be that center of attention and go out tonight and feed yourself and feed your social life and all this stuff. But the other side of it is when you get to this level of showgirling and showgirl business and it's really hard to be authentic to yourself, and it's really hard to not prioritize everyone around you because they've given you this amazing gift, and how can you ever, do enough for them? So track 6, we go into Delicate. I feel like this is a nice like center between where we started and Mirrorball. So it's a little more solemn, but we're kind of once again playing with this idea of how does fame interact with love. And so after Mirrorball, I think this song is really interesting because she talks about my reputation's never been worse. So she's having a lot of trouble, again, people pleasing, if you want to put it this way. So we go into more of a romantic take on what that might look like and how Taylor actually feels more fulfilled in her romantic relationships when her relationship with the public is perhaps not as good as it could be. So when she's mirrorballing, she's having a lot of internal battles. She's perhaps not feeling fulfilled, but her relationship with the public's a lot better because she is doing her damn best to people please and do all of these antics to make people feel comfortable, to make people feel like she's the perfect role model and the perfect pop star and the perfect female or whatever. And in Delicate, it's kind of the complete opposite how I see it. You dig into the lyrics and it's like she is so in love and nothing, it doesn't matter if, that makes anyone else uncomfortable or comfortable because she's realizing at this point that like if she continues to mirrorball, it's going to be really hard for her to feel fulfilled. So really love this song. I think we've got a ton of bangers on this track list, so let's keep it going into Elizabeth Taylor. I feel like this is a really great song from The Life of a Showgirl. It's my personal favorite song from The Life of a Showgirl, and I think it's essential because one question I asked myself when I was rewriting this track list is what songs on this track list are basically synonymous with other songs from her catalog and which songs add something new. And Elizabeth Taylor and Father Figure and The Life of a Showgirl, I felt like were three songs that really brought something new to the table. That's not saying I don't like the other songs. I definitely do. I think they're really interesting. But especially, I want to say the idea in Father Figure is so new and so unique. But I think Elizabeth Taylor is very much the same thing. So it reminds me a little bit of Delicate. I think they're very similar, but in this song, she's lashing out a little bit more and she's getting a little more, I guess, diva down kind of thing. I love the chorus and when the chorus hits, and it very much reminds me of like crashing out over a guy or like thinking about someone so glamorous at a party. Just like something goes wrong and they have this full-fledged meltdown. And that's kind of how this song feels to me, which I think would make a lot of sense for someone who's constantly in the public eye to have this kind of situation where she grabs so tightly onto the thing that she feels like she can control, which is that romantic life with whoever her partner is. So again, this is her kind of accepting the fact that like, this is who I am as a public figure, as a showgirl. Like, yeah, I'm going to be acting like the diva. I'm going to be called a bitch probably, but like, this is my thing. And I don't know what's going to happen to me if something happens to this beautiful, shiny thing that I covet so much. So again, on Delicate, it seems like we're kind of getting to a place of acceptance or something. But then on Elizabeth Taylor, it's like full-fledged, I'm really famous. We're seeing each other. I don't know what's going to happen if we stop seeing each other because everything on the outside, my relationship with the public is crazy. And like, I'm just like not stable right now and I need this. That's kind of what it reminds me of. And it's so good. So, introducing more high tempo bangers in the second part of this track list. Now, we had to have her. Look What You Made Me Do, best song ever written. So after Elizabeth Taylor, this is kind of what I think of as like the carnage of like, if you ever leave me high and dry, this is what would happen. This is my idea of like, I cry my eyes violet. This is Taylor Swift like going full revenge mode, going full, my relationship with the public broke down. That's what happened in Delicate, but I had this beautiful thing. Elizabeth Taylor, my relationship with the public still broken down, but I still have this beautiful relationship, but like I'm really like almost dependent on it to feel okay. And now we've lost everything and we're just taking this intrinsic look inside herself. And, this is our revenge arc, right? So we're grappling with branching away from people pleasing. And I wrote this is so cheesy. What happens when a mirror ball breaks and can't reflect other people? So again, I think, when our relationship breaks with the public and we're kind of grappling onto this person, this relationship, and then that breaks too, the question comes up of like, when we cannot serve someone else, when we can't serve the public, what happens to us? And I think this is the initial carnage and this initial acceptance of, this is who I am. I am, once again, the diva. I am the person who's on all of your mouths, whether it's good or bad. But I think it's also self-exploration into kind of behind the scenes, like, what does Taylor want to be seen as? What does she want to be known for? And kind of fully accepting the fact that like this is who she's become. And instead of, trying to argue that she is not this person and she does not have flaws. She's kind of playing into it and accepting herself for that. So, again, kind of that last bullet point, what I was saying, you can't fit in anymore and you're not trying to fit in anymore. You were accepting the fact that, like, this is who I am. And instead of like trying to tame it, I'm going to like fully embrace it. And then we go into father figure. So this is a little side quest slash interlude about the Master Saga, in my opinion, when I'm thinking of this as kind of like a chronological thing. So our reputation's breaking down. We're kind of, going through some romantic stuff, but then we go into father figure, and this is talking more about like in this time in Taylor's career right after Reputation, that's when she broke from her management team, and that's kind of when the Master Saga came up, right? Because it was her first 6 albums that she had lost. So I also felt like this was kind of a good time to bring in father figure. And like I was saying earlier, I really think this song is just so unique on this album. I haven't heard Taylor kind of speak about it in this way before, which makes sense because she did just get her master's back. So I think this also speaks with interactions with other people in the industry too, not just the Master Saga. So, again, taking a step back from like, oh, what are the public perceiving me as? And I think this is more of an intrinsic look, like pulling behind the curtain, if you will, of like, this is my day-to-day life, if you will. This is how I'm interacting with other people. This is a pattern I'm noticing amongst myself and amongst other people, like taking mentors and backstabbing and betrayal. So I really liked this here because I feel like we've been really focusing on like the public perception and some romance elements, and this song kind of breaks that a little bit and talks more about like what are things looking like in the industry. What is your interactions with other stars kind of look like? How are we showgirling with other showgirls? And the answer is, it's not easy. The answer is, we hate Scott Borchetta. That's the answer. So let's continue. Father figure, so good. Who's Afraid of Little Old Me? I love this after father figure if we're thinking about it in the sense of the Master Saga. This is our track 10, so we're revising Canceled because this is so, I love Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, and Canceled is, it's a song. So this is kind of the emotional peak of my Dead Reputation arc that I've kind of put in here. So this is, kind of going back to the Look What You Made Me Do thing. And we're completely breaking free from the mirror ball mentality. And the reason I love this song too is it doesn't paint Taylor in a good light. It paints her in a bad way. And a lot of tortured poets, you look at it and it's ugly, but it's relatable. It's stuff that people have gone through. And I really like this song because, again, she is fully buying into, I am the most famous person out there, and you guys are going to have opinions on anything I do, regardless of what it is. I cannot please every single one of you. Clearly, no matter what I do, it doesn't make you happy. If I try to make you guys happy too much, I'm seen as annoying and too perfect. But if I do what I want to do, I get lashed out at. They say, speak up now. I say, what is going on? So I really liked this song here. I think it's a really interesting take on her interaction with fame, and especially her level of fame being something that no one's really ever achieved before. And how that can kind of feel when like your fans might go against you, or previous lovers might go against you, and realizing like, hey, like you're going against me. I am the most famous person out there. Like you aren't scared of me. You should be, because I am the biggest person on the planet right now. So love this song, love this anthem for Taylor. And side note, cannot wait to see this on Disney Plus. Oh my gosh. Track 11, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. This song should have been on the album. I'm sorry, this should not have been on Torture Poets. This should have been on Life of a Showgirl, because it is the life of a showgirl. So I think we're starting to kind of bounce back after Who's Afraid of Little Old Me. I think we get to a really dark place with that song where, again, that song is a full-fledged crash out. Half of this album is a full-fledged crash out, because if I was being watched by so many people like Taylor is, I would be crashing out too. But this song is her really reclaiming it and being like, I can do this. I can showgirl, coming back to the showgirl arc of what is she doing every day while she's showgirling. So we're kind of coming away from like how being famous interacts with love, how interacting with fans and the public looks, and we're coming back to this is me, this is who I am. Um, so dealing with many different kinds of broken hearts, like I just mentioned, and persevering through it. Again, key feature of a showgirl. I think this song also really emphasizes like how much strength it takes to really get up on that stage and do it, no matter how you feel physically, mentally, no matter what's going on in your personal life. It is essential for you to perform your duty. And I think this song is just so showgirl. And the fact that it's not on this track list is criminal. Track 12, The Life of a Showgirl. So I think this song and I Can Do With a Broken Heart are so similar, and I think these are really great ways to cap out the album. So it flows so well with the last song, and they really emphasize the really great and really hard parts of being a showgirl and how much you can appreciate what you do, but also understand that it is really hard. We had to get Sabrina Carpenter in on this one. Of course, she had to have her moment. And yeah, I think these two songs together really emphasize Taylor's ultimate passion for the job, no matter what else is going on. And then you guys might be wondering what's track 13. I said Clarabout. So similar to the Lucky one, I wanted to kind of end it out with in an interesting way. And I think Clarabout ends this album out with some rhetorical questions for the listener to think about when thinking about how they talk about famous women in particular, and how fast you can go through people and how fast you can just say something really horrible about someone because they're famous and you don't necessarily think of them as a person with feelings. Um, I think it slows down the track list a little bit and allows us to kind of ease out. And I do love this as like kind of a capping moment. I think it did really well in Tortured Poets. And so that's why I kind of loved it. Of course, I love Showgirl as like an ending, but I think this provides a little more nuance to the ending instead of just being like, oh, the end is I love showgirling. The end is kind of like, I love showgirling, but also think about after you listen to this album, maybe ask yourself some questions about how do you speak about women in the industry? How do you post online about them? Why do we think that they don't have emotions? These kinds of things. So I thought that this would be a really great way to end the track list. Again, it does an amazing job with Tortured Poets, but I think it is definitely showgirl coded. It's about somewhat about fame and all that good stuff. But yeah, that is my revised track list. A little bit all over the place. We have a lot of really up-tempo songs because I feel like this is such a pop album, especially from the marketing and stuff like that. And so I feel like these songs definitely match a little bit rebellious. Again, we get a lot of Reputation in there, a little bit of Tortured Poets. But a lot of those songs are also about how she's interacted with fans in the past, how she interacts with them now, like the different phases she's gone through. Because again, I think we can all agree Taylor Swift has had so many mirror ball moments in her earlier career, and now I feel like she's so authentic to herself because she's learned the hard way time and time again that that's just never going to get her the results that she's looking for. So, let me know what you guys think. Do you like the revision of this track list? Do you hate it? What songs on Showgirl do you think I should have included that I did not? I had to cut this down to only 13 tracks, but I do have honorable mentions on here that I was definitely going back and forth about having on here, especially Long Live. Like that one, I really wanted to put on here, but I just could not find a great place for it. But yeah, so again, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.